What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It's your host, as always, Adam Perez. I'm back once again with a brand new video for you guys today as we're going to be getting into some brand new movie trailers that wind up dropping this past weekend for none other than the Super Bowl itself. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We had the Super Bowl this past weekend, the Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles. I predicted the Eagles to win. But I am so thankful that the Kansas City Chiefs certainly won, as both quarterbacks put on one hell of a show, but only one could certainly reign victorious, as Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs wind up winning their second Super Bowl in I think what, like 3-4 years or something like that, something crazy. I can't quite recall, but regardless, we had the Super Bowl, and usually with the Super Bowl, we usually find ourselves with some great commercials. Not only great commercials, but also great movie trailers. Now, even leading into this upcoming or this past weekend, there were a couple of different sites, Variety, Deadline, and things like that, talking about numerous production studios considering having some movie trailers for this past weekend. I was kind of hoping we would get 6, maybe 7, but maybe the idea of a 30-second spot on the Super Bowl costing like $7 million maybe certainly veered some production companies away, and in turn we only wind up getting 4 trailers this past weekend. We wind up getting Transformers, Rise of the Beast, Indiana Jones, and the Dial of Destiny. Those were the two 30-second spots. The 2 full trailers that we wind up getting was none other than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and the one that a lot of people are certainly talking about, and that is in fact The Flash. That's set to go ahead and drop this upcoming June. So I wanted to take some time to definitely go ahead and talk about some of these. So let's just go ahead and dive into it, man. We got to talk about the Flash movie. That's right. The Flash is certainly up first. As earlier today, this is video is actually being recorded on Monday for you guys. We wind up getting 3 new character posters for the Flash, getting our hype level very high here, as you get to see Ezra Miller as the Flash in the very front, and then on the side you got Michael Keaton as Batman, and of course Sasha Calle as our brand new Supergirl here. So some incredibly stunning posters, some that I definitely would personally love to have on my wall if you were to ask me. But the trailer, guys, let's go ahead and talk about this trailer, because this trailer certainly blew me away. There's been a lot of high expectations for this film ever since Warner Brothers executive talked about during early screenings sometime last year, how there's been such a great positive reception about this film. People are absolutely loving it. Last month, if I'm not mistaken, James Gunn was so vocal as to say that The Flash was one of the greatest superhero movies of all time, and that's certainly saying something from somebody like James Gunn, who is no slouch when it comes to putting together great comic book movies himself. So for him to kind of give The Flash stamp of approval, that's a lot of expectations, right? Maybe the hype has now gotten too high for this film, but you get the opportunity to check out the Super Bowl trailer, and man, the trailer itself, certainly lives up to the hype. Definitely a rather long trailer, but really our first insight into what this film is certainly going to be all about, as Ezra Miller, aka Barry Allen, breaks the timeline once again, right? Breaking the universe, as he certainly says here in the trailer. And it's kind of cool to get the opportunity to see Barry not only bumping into himself, beginning to see a plethora of different characters in this movie. I mean, this movie is certainly loaded. It sort of feels like Civil War-esque, right? Kind of like, we know it's a Captain America movie, but there's so many characters in it aside from him that it just feels like a gigantic crossover event film. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what The Flash certainly feels like. Clearly, Ezra Miller as Barry Allen will be front and center. I know that certainly, has some people feeling some type of way. And I think what makes it even worse is that we've got 2 Ezra Millers in one movie, right? So, as much as we certainly try and push back sort of the personal issues and the crimes and things like that this man has certainly committed over his last 2-year reign, I'm sure there are some people that are going to feel some type of way about this movie, and perfectly understandable if they decide not to support this film or certainly check it out. But good thing for us, at least Ezra Miller is getting some help. So whether or not, we'll see how he comes out on the other end of his treatments and some of the help that he's certainly trying to get. Regardless, though, this movie is dropping. Now, Warner Brothers Discovery has not made a commitment to keeping Ezra Miller around as the Flash after this movie releases. It's really going to be about, let's see how everything goes and then we'll make our decision later on. But as June approaches, the hype continues to build for this film. So let's talk about this trailer here a little bit, as not only do we have one Batman and Michael Keaton showing up in here, which was absolutely great, but we also have Ben Affleck that's going to be in here, as we get to see him in some great action sequences, him also trying to warn Barry, you may not want to necessarily do that, you might break the universe, and that's exactly what he wind up doing. Getting an opportunity to see Michael Keaton return, especially with the classic Batman score, was incredible to say the least. I've been waiting for sort of that money shot of him coming into frame, seeing his face, even getting an opportunity to see him in a little bit of action I thought was great. And even his delivery of the "I am Batman" line, you know, I personally wanted to see him deliver that line a little bit differently, but there is something about the expression on Michael Keaton's face when he says it, almost like, I don't want to say it's meta, but it's almost like he knows that we want him to say it, because he's got this weird sort of smirk on his face, almost like he doesn't want to say it, but he wants to also say it in order to kind of just, you know, like, hey, I'm just gonna rip the band-aid off and just get this out of the way because I know you guys want to hear me say it. And it was great. It definitely gave me chills to certainly see him back, and it does make me wonder, with everything that's going on with Flash going back into time or going to different timelines, you know, is the universe that he's in where his mother is safe, does that just happen to be the Tim Burton universe that Michael Keaton certainly comes from, or is this just a completely different reality as a whole, and there's just another Michael Keaton Batman out there on another Earth, or whatever the case may be? But I'm really interested to kind of see how this is all going to play out, as Barry is certainly going to do everything that he can to save his mom, but in turn, he does mention in this trailer he's now created a world where there are no meta-humans to save them if they need to, and of course we wind up getting Batman to be one of those saviors. So it clearly sounds like no Superman was certainly around, or whatever the case may be. The Henry Cavill Kal-El, as we certainly know him, probably does not exist in this universe, and this is probably where we wind up getting Sasha Calle as Supergirl in here. I think for me, what really stands out is, I think it would be really cool is, again, they're going back and really connecting a lot of major points in the DCEU, right? I mean, we even have General Zod returning. I mean, goodness, it's almost like we're recapturing the climactic battle from Man of Steel, but just now in a different perspective, now that Barry has certainly changed the timeline. So, like, for me, it would be really cool if Sasha Calle's character was the one that's in the pod that we see Kal-El find in Man of Steel, that's kind of open, right? And we've always had that speculation that, oh, I wonder if that's Kara, right? Like, I wonder if there's a Supergirl out there that maybe woke up from her chamber early on and departed, right? So for me, it would be really cool if, like, the Sasha Calle character as Supergirl, if she's actually the one that comes out of that particular pod, from that ship that was sent to Krypton so many years ago, and she ends up being sort of our Superman or Supergirl, certainly, if you will, for this particular timeline. I'm really fascinated to see how she adapts to this world. Clearly, she looks like she's losing control of her abilities, or maybe she doesn't necessarily know how to use all of them or has honed them correctly. Maybe based off of some of her emotions that we see in here, maybe she can kind of go from, you know, a roller coaster set of emotions and thus maybe mess around with her powers a little bit. Who certainly knows? And then we, of course, we got down below, we got a great shot of what looks to be Dark Flash, the complete opposite here of our Flash, what I would also assume would be probably the other doppelganger of Ezra Miller at some point in time, maybe becoming this Dark Flash, unless there's another character that plans on popping up in this movie at some point in time. Like, just the only reason why I make that connection is just because when we see the trailer itself, it almost feels as though, let's say Ezra, that Barry is trying to maybe get the other Barry to acquire Flash powers also, right? Maybe him going back to that exact moment he got his abilities, and we see that lightning bolt, you know, traveling through him and then maybe into the other Barry Allen that he's accompanying to give powers, and maybe that's where our Dark Flash certainly comes from. I mean, action-wise, it looks incredible. Anytime you get Kryptonians to certainly battle each other out, it looks breathtaking. breathtaking. Love getting an opportunity to see Sasha Kaye in here. I even really love the little one-liner at the tag at the end of this trailer where Barry's filming Supergirl out there, and the other Barry's like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Oh, our kids might want to see this one day." Clearly, clearly he's got a crush on Supergirl and thinks that there's certainly more there, and wants to show this video to their kids someday. So the humor is certainly going to be there. Visually, it looks stunning. The director in here, Andy Muschietti, looks like he's done top tier work. James Gunn has already talked about that they're going to be working with him again in the future. So Andy Muschietti definitely putting on his best foot forward, and whoever edited this trailer and certainly put it together, absolutely incredible. I mean, look, maybe I could have done without 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds of this, but I don't feel like I was overly spoiled. I just feel like there's just so much going on in this movie that they could show me anything, and I don't necessarily know. I wouldn't even necessarily know if we have the correct trajectory as to how this movie is certainly going to play itself out. So I was honestly a really big fan of what we wind up getting here in this particular Flash trailer, and I'm ready to see more. I'm kind of curious if we'll get another trailer or two before June, but I feel like this movie, you could probably get away with maybe one more trailer. And then maybe we'll get our traditional sort of TV spots as we build up to its release. But, I wouldn't blame people if they decided not to watch any more trailers just because of this one that we wind up getting here already. So The Flash is definitely something I'm paying very close attention to. I think you guys certainly should also. And listen, if there's any moments or any things from this trailer that I missed that you guys want to go ahead and continue to talk about, let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below, guys. We'll definitely continue this conversation throughout the week. Outside of that, we also wind up getting ourselves a Guardians of the Galaxy movie trailer as well. They also released a brand new poster for it earlier on today. This is just a portion of the poster, but really the opportunity to give everybody to see the entire team as we know it, and it seemingly may be the last time that we see this team together. I thought this was another great trailer, honestly. This is another trailer that I think for me pulls at my heartstrings a little bit more on the emotional side of things, because I've been so invested in these characters in the MCU for such a long time. Like the Flash movie trailer, bombastic, incredible action, great moments to certainly see on screen, right? Getting you hyped that maybe we've got ourselves an actual great DC film here. Guardians of the Galaxy, for me, I feel like we've gotten one great one semi-good one with volume 2. I absolutely love the holiday special, and again, we've seen these characters in Avengers movies also, right? So a lot of attachment to them, and James Gunn has always talked about this truly being the last iteration of this team as we know it, and some sort of bittersweet emotional goodbyes certainly to some of these characters. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean some of these characters die? Do they go off into the sunset, right? Do they just, their contracts are up for some of these actors, and so they certainly now need to be replaced? But I gotta tell you, man, this Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer definitely got me guessing, and we got some great photos here to certainly show for you guys. Will Poulter as Adam Warlock, he looks incredible in this trailer, whether it be from the action sequences. He's got a great action sequence and shot in here going up against Drax. It's like they always got like two lightsabers clashing with each other, although I know they're not lightsabers, but just that clash between these two, just the muscle-bound guy, and Adam Warlock is just as OP as it certainly gets, right? Overpowered. So I cannot wait to see that clash. But even seeing Adam just sort of flying through the sky and stuff, visually, he looks pretty impressive. I definitely do think Will Poulter will certainly execute Adam Warlock extremely well. And I'm really fascinated to see more of High Evolutionary here. I can never remember the actor's name, but he also was in another James Gunn series for Peacemaker. But High Evolutionary's in it, and it definitely has some major connections into the life of Rocket Raccoon. I definitely do think this is going to be a super emotional movie for Rocket. I think Bradley Cooper, as the voice of Rocket, is really going to be digging in his bag to get every ounce of emotions out. The idea of this, this character remembering and experiencing this pain and torture from the High Evolutionary, who really is trying to aim for a perfect society, whatever that certainly means in his eyes. But I'm going to be really fascinated to see how the High Evolutionary plays into it, as he's a pretty significant villain when it comes to the Marvel comics. And one of the things that I noticed watching some of his photos and even other moments in this trailer for the High Evolutionary, it almost seems as though like his face, like his skin is literally pulled onto it and then like hooked on, sort of thing, right? So I do wonder if there's a moment in this movie where that face comes off and maybe you actually see what the High Evolutionary certainly looks like underneath that skin that he has sort of over his head. So pretty creepy stuff, but definitely looks like there's some creepy like experimentation vibes in here. Graphically, I don't know what we're gonna see in this movie, but we may have some pretty uncomfortable moments, to certainly say the least. One of the things that I do find fascinating in here too is like, I don't know if they're teasing the death of Star-Lord on purpose, but it just seems like I see a lot of moments here for Star-Lord where he's just kind of in peril, right? Like, we're already focusing on the storyline of him and Gamora. I love the fact that this trailer kicks off with humor about the idea of like him trying to explain the story behind his love for Gamora and where he currently finds himself, as this Gamora is apparently a pretty big dick for this for a sense of speaking. But so I kind of get the laughter and the humor out of that. But then you get to see moments of Star-Lord screaming, some pretty intense action sequences involving him. There's even the shot towards the very end of like Nebula carrying his body out. Talk about a massive tease, right? Like, I don't think that they would certainly tease the death and the end of Star-Lord in an actual trailer, but they definitely seem like they are building up, or at least just trying to get people talking, if you will, and let those theories start to fly in regards to who might meet their demise. Does anybody die in this movie? Maybe not, right? But maybe they just find themselves in an extreme peril in here. But great stuff, if you ask me. The humor was definitely there. Visually, it looks pretty stunning. Also, great soundtrack as always. I think you can always rely on a great soundtrack from a James Gunn movie. And I even really love the little post scene that we wind up getting at the end of Star-Lord looking at Nebula, Nebula telling him to knock it out and complimenting her dark eyes, sort of thing. I thought it was actually pretty funny, but I definitely don't think that's the route that they're certainly going for between those two. Certainly no love triangle here, but the Gamora and Star-Lord stuff should certainly be pretty interesting. I'm really eager to see again, there were definitely a lot of emotional scenes, especially from the rest of the Guardians group. There's even a scene in here where it looks like Drax is starting to kind of cry. You see Star-Lord running through like a building that's certainly on fire, right? I mean, so there's definitely a lot of death and destruction that seems to be raining down in this trailer. And I guess at the end of the day, we're supposed to try and figure out who really comes out the end of this fully intact. So they definitely have my attention, to certainly say the least. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, just as great of a trailer as The Flash, if you ask me. I still think The Flash wins out, but Guardians just hits just on a whole nother level, and a really great trailer, to certainly say the least, man. So James Gunn is going to be a very busy guy over the next few years also. Outside of that, guys, real briefly, we did have ourselves a Transformers trailer. Again, it was just a 30-second trailer. Some of this stuff you've probably already have seen in the previous trailer, with maybe a couple of new images, but this almost felt like a Porsche commercial, if you ask me. Like a Porsche commercial meets a movie trailer, as we get the opportunity to see Mirage, who we saw briefly, but he definitely gets a little bit more screen time on here, as it seems like he's going to be the main car attached to one of our main characters in here also. Now, I watched Transformers as a kid. I dabble in it from time to time, but I'm not a hardcore fan into the fandom itself. I couldn't tell you names and the car types to save my life if it came down to it. So, but one of the things that I've been hearing is that people are kind of upset that this Porsche is not necessarily named Jazz. I guess Jazz in the cartoon was a Porsche. I feel like Mirage is also the name of a Transformers, though, but I don't know what car type Mirage certainly was. So I'm wondering if they name swapped it because of the fact that the car has the ability to create mirages. Even though I think that's something Jazz can do in the cartoon, I'm not quite familiar. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. So it kind of feels like people are upset that the car is not being named Jazz and being named Mirage instead. Personally don't have a problem with it, but I can understand those that certainly do. If the Transformers a Porsche and it's supposed to be Jazz, just stick with the name. But it seems as though they're definitely changing things up. But if I am incorrect, please go ahead and let me know. Great Notorious B.I.G. soundtrack to it, but again, I felt very much like just uh, some new images, a lot of old images didn't really get me more hyped or not for it. Again, it felt more like a Porsche commercial for me more than anything. And then last but not least, we did have the Indiana Jones 5 Dial of Destiny. Now look, I'm really looking forward to this film. I love Harrison Ford. I'm a big Indiana Jones fan when it comes to the franchise, and I really want to see Phoebe Waller-Bridge and how what her new character and just what her character or acting chops certainly brings to this particular world. Look, they got to get the term Nazi in there, right? Indiana Jones loves punching a couple of Nazis, so we do see a couple of brief new images, even get the opportunity to see some de-aging moments here for Harrison Ford. And I think the de-aging technology looks pretty good, at least from trailers, right? These are just brief glimpses. Once we get the opportunity to see the movie itself, does it hold up when you've got a couple of minutes of a de-aged Harrison Ford, especially if you're going to be incorporating action, right? Does it look pretty fluid? But this trailer really highlighted some of the action pieces that we're going to be getting, some of the great stunt work that it looks like it's a mixture of practical and CGI, obviously in some circumstances. But I even thought the skydiving shot towards the end was pretty good also, getting to see Phoebe and Harrison Ford jumping out of a plane. Granted, I'm pretty sure that's not Harrison Ford and probably not real skydiving, but who knows, maybe they wind up mixing practical and CG and some special effects in there in some way or another. If anything, I am going to be interested to see if people are hungry for another Indiana Jones 5 movie. James Mangold is attached to this. He's been doing some incredible work. I have no doubts that he's going to bring his A game here. Just from the trailer alone, it looked stunning from a visual point of view. I just certainly hope that the character work and storytelling is certainly there as well. But again, I think if I take anything away from the Indiana Jones 5 trailer, it's probably just the action pieces that they wind up showcasing us here, and just really the scope and the range of what this film could potentially be. But guys, listen, let me know your thoughts. Out of the 4 trailers that we wind up getting here this past weekend at the Super Bowl, what was your favorite? Feel free to certainly rank them if you want, or if you just want to tell me what your favorite one was, definitely go ahead and let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below, and as to why you also really enjoyed those trailers. But other than that, guys, that's going to do it for me here. We'll definitely keep you posted throughout the week for any brand new information and news that winds up dropping. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. It definitely does go a long way. And please feel free to leave a comment on these videos. But until next time, do me a big favor as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.